From humble beginnings to the pinnacle of success, one man's journey proves that with determination, anything is possible. This is Catch as Catch Can with George Tinsley Sr., inspiring conversations of triumph over adversity. Here's George.
My guest today is Otis Birdsong, a former professional basketball player who starred in the NBA for 12 seasons, earning 4 All-Star selections and a reputation as one of the league's premier guards in the late 1970s and 1980s. A standout at University of Houston, he left college as the school's second all-time leading scorer before he was selected second overall in the 1977 NBA draft. Otis, welcome to the program.
Welcome, my friend. Thank you, my friend.
Yeah, we're glad to have you, man. We've been trying to get you on for quite some time, and I know you had some higher callings and put us on the back burner, but we got you now.
Well, you're the busiest man in show business, so it's just an honor to be on with you. Finally got you.
We finally got each other. Well, look, let's have some fun and talk about some things that the folks might be very interested in. I'd like to start off by, I mentioned here in 1977 draft, and you were being the second pick. What do a lot of people don't know about that draft, you being the second pick and your contract?
Well, first of all, the hoopla surrounding the draft did not exist then. Now they fly guys into New York, and it's a whole big entertainment festival. The year I came out, I knew I was going to be the second pick in the draft because I was in Kansas City the day of the draft. So I knew Kansas City was going to draft me. I had flown in a couple of days earlier. They took me to the stadium where the Kansas City Chiefs play and the Kansas City Royals and showed me the city. So I knew I was going to be drafted by them.
Okay.
And also, I wasn't spending the night in Kansas City because my mama had planned a party for me back home that night. So after the draft, I flew back home to Tampa, and they picked me up, and we had a party at the house in Winter Haven.
Okay.
But I knew I was going to be the second pick in the draft. What was interesting, Kent Benson went number 1.
Okay. Yeah.
And Marcus Johnson from UCLA was the third pick. So it was a great draft. Eddie Johnson from Lake Weir, who played for the Atlanta Hawks, was in that draft. Ernie Grunfeld. So 1977 was a heck of a draft. Norm Nixon was in that draft. It was a great class.
Yeah. But what else was significant? A lot of people they hear about these $1 million contracts, multi-million-dollar contracts, and I think you set a standard at that time. Tell us about it.
Well, not at that time. It
Okay.
was my second contract that set the standard. George, being the second pick in the draft, I signed for $150,000 a year.
Wow. Okay.
It was a 4-year contract with the Kings, which back then, $150,000.
Sure.
It was a big contract, but
Yeah.
it was $150,000. My shoe contract with Converse was for $1,000 and all the product that I wanted. Unbelievable what the guys get now,
Yeah.
So
Yeah. You said Puma? Was that for Puma?
Converse.
Converse.
Which was basically back then, it was Converse and Adidas.
Right.
You didn't have Nike and Puma and all the other shoe companies, so you didn't have the competition. But I wore Converse in college and in high school, so I wanted to wear Converse initially into the pros.
Okay.
But it was $1,000 a year contract plus all the product, man.
Yeah. So at that time, who all was with Converse besides Dr. J? I'm sure he was.
Larry Bird was with Converse.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken, Magic Johnson was with Converse. Converse had cornered the market really before Nike came.
Okay.
Adidas didn't have a lot of guys.
Right.
But Converse was the shoe because at one time there wasn't even Adidas was around, but they were known for soccer overseas, and eventually they came to the United States. But Converse basically was the only shoe around at one time.
Well, as I mentioned, when you say that, and the ABA, which I'll go back to back in my day, the shoe then was Converse and also Puma. Came out at that particular time. There were, I think, a very few Adidas out there, but there was no such thing as a contract that I was aware of anyway during that time. So you're right. The money then was, much larger. So and what you got as far as accessories, you know, that was
Yeah.
a little bit different.
Yeah, I saw before we changed subjects though, I saw Walt Frazier a few months ago,
Hmm.
and we were talking about shoe contracts. If I'm not mistaken, Walt was the first guy to wear Puma. That's what
Yeah.
he was telling me.
Yes.
And I'm sure he was paid very, very well. But he was the
Hmm.
first guy to wear Puma and for the shoe company to start a advertising program centered around one player.
Yeah.
So, and I remember seeing him, I'm like, Puma? Who wears Puma?
Yeah, yeah. Well, they weren't built well, but they looked fast. They had that wing on it, and so they looked good. But Walt, the amazing things that he did on the court obviously took it to a whole
Right.
level. Yeah. So, but Otis, you coming from Winter Haven, Florida, which is where I live today, and I I remember when we first moved here in about 1984, the first thing I heard was, "Are you kin to Otis Birdsong? Do and being knowing that I played professional basketball, but just about everywhere that our interaction that I had, your name always came up. I didn't have the pleasure of knowing you at that particular time. I knew of you as a basketball player, but people around here just were raving about your exploits from the state championship team that you all had at Winter Haven that you won then, and they haven't won one since. But tell me about growing up there in Winter Haven, your early days.
Well, George, it's you know what's interesting was, if I'm not mistaken, we didn't integrate the schools until I was in the 8th or ninth grade. We grew up playing baseball. That was our first love because the Boston Red Sox used to spring train in Winter Haven.
Right.
I can remember going to see the Winter Haven Red Sox, and Jim Rice was playing. And we would stand outside and try and catch his home runs. And so we grew up baseball fans. That was our first love.
Uh-huh.
And then football was our second love. We
Hmm.
loved basketball was just something we did. And so when we integrated the schools at Denison, I think I was in the ninth grade, everybody went out for the football team. And so now you have all of the white kids who played at Denison and who were just arriving at Denison. And then you had all the black kids who wanted to play. And I am not lying. It was over probably 200, 300 kids trying out for the team. I mean, it's like the whole school was trying out, man. Everybody wanted to play football. And so the coach said, if you're late to practice, I'm going to cut you. If you're hurt and can't practice, I'm going to cut you. The first day of practice, I severely sprained my ankle. And I cried like a baby, not because it was so painful, but because I wasn't going to be able to play football with all of my buddies. And I really loved playing football. And so, I would have played wide receiver. Norris was a running back. We had so many guys that made the team, and I would have been able to play. Looking back now, of course, it was a blessing in disguise, but That's how I really started focusing on basketball. After I got cut, I was like, I'm not playing football anymore, and just started playing basketball.
Yeah.
But growing up in Winter Haven, during that time, it was tough, man. When I went to the high school, the Booster Club ran the sports programs. They had a lot of control over the coaches and who they played. There were a lot of black players who were exceptional in basketball and football who didn't get an opportunity to play because the Booster Club had the money and they controlled who played and who didn't play.
Right.
Uh, my 10th grade year, I didn't play on the varsity and was a star player. Played great. You know, we had a great team my 10th grade year, but our varsity team was so good, they didn't call me up. We lost in 7 overtimes at the state tournament my sophomore year, and I wasn't on the team. By the time I became a junior, I was like I wasn't starting in the beginning.
Mhm.
And everybody knew I should have been starting. The guy who was starting in front of me was a white kid, and his dad was the head of the Booster Club.
Okay.
And I was walking around school telling everybody I should be starting, I should be playing. Everybody knew it. Coach Dietrich, the head coach at the time, called me into the office, and he said, if I hear one more word from you or anybody else about you should be starting, I'm going to cut you from the team. Coach Goodrum, who was the guidance counselor, he was the head football coach at the old black school, Jewett High. He called me into the office. He said, Otis, look, you got to wait your turn. You'll be all right. Just wait your turn. If it's meant for you, you'll be all right. Everybody know you the best player, but just wait your turn. It wasn't a few days later, George, I am not lying. A few days later, that boy almost break his ankle. I mean, to the point where he couldn't play at all for like 4, 5, 6 games. And he never played again. Because once they starting me and the people saw it, there's no way you're going to put me on the bench
Right.
after that. But that's how I started playing my junior year.
Mhm. Okay.
And now I tell people to this day, even though my senior year we won the state tournament, my junior year was the best team because I was the only starter on the team that won the state tournament the next year.
Okay.
And Dennis Davis was the only other guy who got a lot of time.
Mhm.
And we were ranked number 3 in the nation. I mean, in the state. We had a great team, man. And we had home court advantage in the district. And we lost the first game to Lakeland after beating them twice during the regular season. You know, they beat us at home because the seniors were just joking around, you know. And then my senior year, we were just we were phenomenal. But I think to your point, why people were remembering me even to this day, not just because we won the state, we had a great team, but I think people still trying to figure out, George, how with the 8-minute quarter, you can average 33 points a game in a high school. So I think that's what they remember. They trying to figure out how I was able to score so many points. Cause you know, I even think about that. 33 points a game in high school is a lot of points.
Yeah.
But we averaged over 90 points a game
Yeah.
as a team, you know. So
Yeah. You know, when you were inducted into the Hall of Fame, well, not in Hall of Fame, but when you came back to have your jersey retired, and you told me about that, I did the little calculation myself, and I said I was trying to figure it out myself on how you were, what kind of offense y'all were running and what you were doing. But you know, it was pretty. When you told me that y'all were averaging 90 plus points a game, that it made more sense.
yeah,
Yeah.
we had 5 players averaging in double figures.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
then we had some key players off the bench who were at least one of them for sure averaged double figures.
Right.
But 33 points a game is a lot of points for a high school. These high school kids now struggle to score 33 points in a game.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a few that have some outside of the area that have some pretty high averages. But you mentioned the scoring as to why a lot of people in the community, uh, talk about you. I think it personally, I think it goes much deeper than that. I think it's the character and the kind of individual that you are, and your family here in the area. Of course, your brother being the mayor of the city and has been involved in leadership for 25, 30 years with the city. You mentioned Norris a second ago. People who are listening to this podcast won't know who Norris is. So why don't you kind of take me back, tell me a little bit about your family, growing up, family history, and the part that your family played in the community.
Well, my dad passed away on Christmas Day when I was 8 years old. And from a family of 12, 7 girls and 5 boys, I'm the 10th of 12 children. And mama didn't have a formal education. In fact, when I went pro, she was still she was a housekeeper, for Miss Barbara Simpson. When I went pro, she was
Mhm.
making $40 a week. But we were so blessed that um, out of 12 kids, 11 of us went to college.
Outstanding.
The majority of us have college degrees. The 12th one didn't go to college because she was physically challenged.
Mhm.
In fact, she was in a home. She didn't stay at home with us. She was in another home in Fort Myers, Florida. So mama made sure, even though she didn't have a formal education, all of the kids went to college. And like I said, the majority of us have college degrees. Um, my dad was a Baptist minister, so he was really strict. So when he passed, mama was really strict, you know, and she taught us the respect of everyone. In fact, our home, even though integration was very young when we were in high school, we were one of the few families that you could see some of our teammates, white players, come to our home.
Mhm.
Very, very. I don't know of any other family in the neighborhood that had white kids coming to their home. Mom always opened our doors to everyone. Everyone in Winter Haven was family when you walked through the doors to this day. Eva Mae, our sister, oldest sister, she's the same way. When you walk in our house, it's just like you a sibling, and that's the way we were raised to respect and treat everybody with respect, regardless of the color of their skin. And that's the way my sisters and brothers were raised, and that's the way we live. And so character is a great trait in our family. And I think to your point, that is one of the reasons, probably the main reason that the Birdsong name is so well known in Winter Haven.
Yeah, I know Joyce Davis, that name may ring a bell to you. She ran the Chamber of Commerce here in Winter Haven when I moved in, and of course she would always talk about Otis Birdsong to me like I knew you, and I knew of you, as I said, but I didn't know you. But she would always mention that you would come, off season. I'd see you around working out and so forth, but didn't get a chance to meet you until later on. But your family, to your point that you just mentioned, I know when I first met the family, they welcomed me in like another part of the family, and of course, once you and I got to know each other a lot by serving on the NBA Retired Players Association board, it was it. I was drawn closer, to your family, and got to know your sisters and brothers a lot more. So you mentioned Norris. You can tell us about the uniqueness of you and Norris growing up as two of the younger members of the family.
Well, one thing people don't know, George, is that Norris was a great basketball player. In fact, if Norris had chosen basketball over football, he probably couldn't have gone pro, but he would have had a heck of a career in basketball. He could flat score the basketball. I mean, he would he could shoot, he was strong, and he and I had some great battles. And but he was a heck of a basketball player. And I'm not being partial when I say this. He is the greatest running back that ever played at Winnebago High School. Norris was like O.J. Simpson. The coach that he played for, Norris carried the ball 30 times a game
Wow.
because, you know, the coach was a coach who liked to run the ball, and Norris could run the ball. And like I said, he was like O.J. Simpson, man. I mean, he could cut and move. He was O.J. Simpson, Gale Sayers, all of them into one, man. And the stadium used to be packed, George. When they in high school played football, they went to see Norris play because every time he touched it, you were holding your breath because you know something special was going to happen, man. And like I said, I'm not biased because he's my brother, but he was the greatest running back Winnebago High School has ever had, man.
Uh,
And I'm going to try and push to get him in the Hall of Fame as well at that high school because he was amazing, man. But
so did he play basketball and football?
he played basketball and football. He played up until the 10th grade. No, he actually played until the 11th grade,
Okay.
and then he didn't play his senior year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. 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 So at what point did you all or your family make the decision for Norris to be held back 1 year to be in the same year as you?
I don't know how that happened, to be honest, George. I think it was the 3rd grade, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
I think that happened in the 3rd grade.
Mhm.
It wasn't that Norris wasn't and isn't smart. It's just that kids goof off,
Uh-huh.
and we don't, even in the 2nd and 3rd grade, you're not taught or thinking about you're gonna stay back or you're not gonna pass.
Mhm.
You just going to school. You're just having fun. You make your grades, but you're not really serious about grades in the 2nd or 3rd grade. And my dad had passed, and even though she was big on education, yeah, I don't even know how you would keep a kid back then.
Mhm.
Now they do it intentionally.
Yeah.
I know in New Jersey, when I go up to do the camps, the parents keep their kids back so they can play another year to get better, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
But I think it happened in the 3rd grade, if I'm not
Mm,
mistaken.
mhm. Okay. Because you and he have had the close relationship, within the family, probably closer than the rest, and Nathaniel was quite a bit older than you all, correct? And he took on the father role?
He did take on the father role. After dad passed, Nathaniel did take on the father role.
Mhm.
And he has done a tremendous job until this day. I can remember in high school, he used to let us use his car on the weekends. And man, it was nice.
Yeah. There was a story I heard, and we will finish up here on the high school and elementary or middle school. There was a story I think that, yeah, you were upset about a game and complaining, and he gave you one of those, father-son, big brother talks, and you, came out the next game and scored 40 or 50 in that particular game. I don't know how that story. Can you tell me a little bit about that story? Do you recall?
No, no, Joe got it wrong.
Okay.
What happened was my junior year, I was the second leading scorer on the team
Okay.
behind Warren Bridges.
Okay.
Even though I was, the second lead scorer behind Warren Bridges. And I didn't receive most improved or back then banquets were huge, George.
Uh-huh.
Growing up, a kid, when you won a trophy, man, that
Big
was
big
that was
time.
life changing, man. And I didn't get any awards at the banquet. And Dennis Davis, who was on the team, I think he received most improved. And I was just devastated, man, that I didn't get a trophy. I was literally crying like a baby. And Joe was like, Nathaniel was like, Otis, what you crying for? I said, they didn't give me anything. I know I should have gotten something. I was second lead scorer. I was the best player, the second best player. And I said, next year I might average 30 points a game. He said, Otis, calm down. No one can average 30 points a game. I said, I'm going to average 30 points a game next year. And that's what he's talking about.
Okay. Okay.
And I end up averaging 33. So
Right.
yeah, he just got got it wrong.
Yeah. It was at the banquet that I heard him say, tell the story. Maybe I've got it wrong, maybe, because obviously he knew what the story was.
Yeah.
I got it wrong. It was one of the youth basketball that he introduced you. That's what it was. Yeah. He
Oh,
introduced
okay.
Yeah, yeah. So, okay, so you, you become a senior at Winter Haven, you won a state championship, you start looking at colleges and making decision to lead the area. Tell us about that. How'd you make a decision on Houston?
No, I really wasn't looking to leave the area. I was really fascinated with Florida State.
Okay.
Hugh Durham, the head coach at the time, recruited me heavily, and they had gone to the finals of the NCAA tournament with Ron King and Reggie Roy and those guys. And so I was really leaning towards going to Florida State. Of course, I had my high school sweetheart. Didn't want to leave town because I wanted to be near her. Florida was an option as well. Um, Jacksonville, I really wasn't interested in going to Jacksonville. The first school that sent me a letter, George, in the state of Florida was Stetson. And I didn't think Stetson was a big enough school or basketball school at the time, so I really didn't consider them. But my first recruiting trip, first time I ever got on a plane, was the University of Houston. And just was crazy about the head coach. I mean, the assistant coach, Harvey Pate, who recruited me, who had brought in Elvin Hayes and Don Chaney. And when he started recruiting me really out of high school, we were in Winter Park playing in a tournament. He actually came to see someone else. And he saw me play, and then he started recruiting me. But I visited Purdue, Western Kentucky. George Ravelins wanted me to come to Washington State at the time. Um, but after I went to Houston, it was just something about Houston that I really liked. I liked Guy Lewis, the head coach. I had seen them play UCLA in the Astrodome. And my mom and Joe, they were very instrumental in helping me choose the University of Houston too. It was just something about the assistant coach. He was like a father, and they knew he would take care of me, going off to school, and he really did too. He really did look after me.
All right. So growing up with a big family, and being that close and here in Winter Haven, here in Florida, that seems like a big jump to leave the state. And did you have family in Houston anywhere?
I didn't have any family in Houston. But George, everything is ordained, whether you believe it or not. And when I went to Houston, back then, I don't know about when you were in school, they used to make the freshmen come in for orientation
Right.
a week before school started. To get used to the campus, see where your classes are going to be, meet some of your teammates. And the guy that ended up being my roommate was an Italian guy, Jim Perry. And we talk every day to this day. And it was just a match made in heaven. His family was just tremendous, high character family, his mom and dad. I was just like immediately a son to them. And so we had a great bond, and it just was a lot of fun, man. And I was homesick though. In fact, I was so homesick, I was getting ready to leave the University of Houston. I was going to transfer. I was going to go to Florida State. I called my high school coach, Coach Dietrich, and he said, "Otis, I understand you being homesick." He said, "But just stick it out the rest of the year. If you stick it out the rest of the year, and then you tell me that you want to come home after this year, after the year, then I'll say, yeah, you should do it." And he was right. After I got through the year, I didn't want to transfer after that.
Mhm. During that time, freshmen weren't playing varsity. Is that correct?
No, my first year was the first year that freshmen could actually play on the varsity.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
my freshman year. Yeah,
Okay. And that's the year you averaged 14 a year.
right,
14 games. Yeah.
right,
Okay.
right.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So that was, I know at one particular point you had mentioned to me that one of your favorite players in college was Ron King. And I knew that you had considered Florida State at one particular time. I've known Ron ever since he was a high schooler there in Kentucky, Mr. Basketball, as a matter of fact, in Kentucky, and they won the state championship in his senior year back there. So great offensive player. Him and Otto Moore. You may remember little Otto Moore, who was the point guard on that team.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So they went to high school together and on into Florida State. So I've talked to Ron quite often. So, but your career at University of Houston. Tell us a little bit about that. How significant that was, because it was quite something.
Well, I was able to play with a lot of great players, Louis Dunbar and those guys. I think my first 2 years there, George, we were underachievers.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Lou would be the first to admit he and those upperclassmen were more focused on girls and partying and having a good time than they were in putting in the work to be great basketball players. Louis Dunbar is Louis Dunbar and Darryl Dawkins are the two most talented players I ever played with. Louis Dunbar, as a sophomore, the NBA and the ABA were begging him to go hardship. He would have been a first round pick, and he decided to stay at the University of Houston. But all those guys did was party.
Mm-hmm.
The weight room was a joke. You know, Guy Lewis, he couldn't get on him or tell him to do anything. I mean, the underclassmen, we were working hard in the weight room and everything. But those guys, I mean, it was a joke to them. So we kind of underachieved my first 2 years at the University of Houston, even though I had decent years. But
Well, as you mentioned Daryl Dawkins, I didn't know he went to Houston.
no, no, no. I was just saying two of the players that I played with throughout my career in
Okay,
the NBA or college,
gotcha, gotcha.
Dunbar had the skills, man. Darryl could have been the greatest center ever, George. I'm telling you, man.
Mhm.
And he he was unbelievable, man. And Dunbar, talking about Magic Johnson or Michael Ray. First of all, Lou is 6'9".
Mhm.
Lou had Steph Curry range. He could rebound, pass. He was a triple-double before triple-doubles were even thought about.
Okay.
And he was quick. He was big. He was the first 6'9" point guard. I mean, he could do everything, but he didn't work. He
That
never. Can't remember Lou Dunbar lifting weights.
mhm.
But he was so talented and fun to play with, and great guy to this day. I love him. He's like a brother.
Yeah,
But he could have been one of the all-time greats, man.
yeah. Great Globetrotter.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Mhm, mhm.
And then by the time I became a junior, Sidney Moncrief and that group, we went into the Southwest Conference. My first 2 years, we were independent.
Okay.
How about my first game as a freshman coming from Winter Haven, George, little small town, was at the University of North Carolina Dean Smith was the coach. I'm looking around. I'm like, where are the black people? And they put a good whooping on us, man. They had Mitch Kupchak. Walter Davis was a freshman. Oh, man. It, it was a whooping. But that was my first game in college.
Okay.
Also, my freshman year, we played at Louisville with some of the great, great players they had. We played at South Carolina. They had Alex English and Brian Winters. We played at Southern Cal. They had Paul Westphal and Gus Williams.
Mhm.
Oh, man, we had a schedule, man, because we
Mhm.
were independent
Right.
the
Right.
first 2 years, and those are the kind of teams we played.
Mhm. Who was in Louisville? Do you remember?
Are you kidding? They had Junior Bridgman.
Okay. Okay.
The guy that jumped so high, I told you he jumped center.
Yeah. Howard. Can't think of his last name. First name was Howard. About
It, it,
6'2".
the guy who was a freshman, he came in with me. I think he told me he had his legs amputated.
Wesley Cox.
Wesley Cox was on that team.
Stanley Bond.
Philip Bond was on that team.
Yeah. Bill Bunn was on that team.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. They
Yeah.
had a tough team, and they were good.
Yeah. I remember now. I'm trying to put the years together. Yeah, they had a really a great team. That Ricky Gallen played on that team from Florida.
No, Ricky was a couple years behind me, I believe,
Oh,
George.
he was? Okay.
Yeah. Ricky was a couple years behind me.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he played with Cox by the time Cox graduated. That's okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think Wesley's third year, Ricky was a freshman,
Mhm.
and we didn't play Louisville anymore after that first year
Okay.
because we went into the Southwest Conference,
Mhm.
and we didn't play Louisville anymore.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay. So your exploits, tell us about the exploits there now at Houston in your junior year, and you go into the conference, and you're averaging how many at this time?
Well, my junior year, I averaged 24.6 or something, which was like 25 a game. I mean, my sophomore year.
Mhm. Wow.
And so going into my junior year, first year in the Southwest Conference, they didn't want us in there, first of all. And they hated Guy Lewis because Coach Lewis was the first coach in the Southwest. In fact, the University of Houston is the first school in the Southwest to integrate. Elvin Hayes and Don Chaney and Warren McVeigh, who played for the Kansas City Chiefs, were the first black players and first black students at the University of Houston.
Okay.
And so the coaches at Texas A&M, Baylor, Texas Tech, they hated Guy Lewis for signing black players. That's why they kept him out the Hall of Fame so long. And they didn't allow us into the Southwest Conference until they were able to recruit some black players. And so it was tough, man. George, this is no lie. My junior year, I averaged a technical a game in the Southwest Conference.
You a Tech again?
They were beating me up, man, and the referees were not calling anything.
Okay.
Man, the fans were so nasty to us on the road, man, at Arkansas and the different places. They were just nasty, man. They hated us because, we had a lot of black players and we, integrated the Southwest.
Mhm.
And so it was tough, man. My junior year, man, I took a beating.
All right.
And as a team, we didn't get a bid to the NIT or the NCAA tournament. I think we only won like 19 games my junior year. But what was significant about my junior year, I had played in the Pan American Games in Mexico City, and we won the gold medal. The centers I played with Tree Rollins, Robert Parrish, and Rick Roby were the centers from that I played with. Rick was from Kentucky. Philip Bond was on that team.
Mhm.
And so we had a great, great team, man. We won the gold. And so going into that summer, we were going into the 84 Olympics. I'm sorry, the 76 Olympics.
Okay.
And I tried out for the 76 Olympics. And I can remember being cut. George Thompson came in the room and he said, Otis, we're going to make you an alternate. If somebody get injured, then you'll be able to come. I was voted most valuable player of the Pan American Games.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, well, what's the reason? And he said that Dean Smith felt like I was such a great scorer that I wouldn't fit in with the team. Really? Dean Smith took 7 guys from the ACC, and then he took 3 guys from Indiana who had won the championship, Scott May, Kent Benson, and I can't think of the third guy.
And Quinn on that team? Quinn Buckner?
And Quinn, yes, and Quinn Buckner. He took 7 guys from the ACC.
Okay.
Yep.
There
And
you
I
have
could, and just like when I didn't win a trophy, George,
Yeah.
all summer long, bro, I was motivated. I called Coach Lewis. I say, Coach, please, whatever you do, please, please, please get me a game with North Carolina. Please get us a game my senior year. And I can remember being in Winter Haven, playing in the front yard and hanging out with some friends. And he called me. Mama called me and said, Coach Lewis is on the phone. And I ran inside. He said, I got some good news and some bad news. I said, well, what's the bad news? He said, I couldn't get a game with North Carolina. I'm sorry. I said, well, what's the good news, Coach? He said, I got us a game at UCLA on New Year's Day on national TV. Yep.
So there you go.
Yep. So my senior year, we just had a phenomenal year. We won 26 regular season games. We lost to Arkansas in the conference championship. We didn't get a bid. The UCLA game at the time, I don't know if it still stands, but I think I had the highest scoring game at Poly for Vision at the time. I scored 43 that game, and John Wooden said it's the greatest single effort he had ever seen at Poly Pavilion at the time. And we didn't get a bid to the NCAA tournament, George, because back then they only had 28 teams.
Mm-hmm.
They took 28 teams. Arkansas got the bid. So we went to the NIT.
Okay.
The first game of the NIT, we got a home game to play to see who goes to New York. The NIT was big back then.
Yes.
And guess who we played? The phenomenal Indiana State team with Larry Bird.
Okay.
And they built it up as Bird versus Bird. Larry was the second leading scorer in the nation. I was the third leading scorer in the nation. He was averaging like 32. I was averaging 30. And they built it up, Bird versus Bird. And they had a heck of a team, man. And it came down to the wire. Packed arena. We had a 1-point lead. And they had the ball at the end of the game with like 10 seconds. Guy Lewis, my coach at the time, said, Otis, I want you to guard Larry on this play. Well, heck, I hadn't guarded him the whole game. Larry, like 6'9".
Right.
I'm like, you put me on him. Of course, they threw it into him in the corner. He backed me down with that patent fadeaway. Shoots his turnaround, hits the rim. And it hits the rim because I nicked him on the elbow. And they didn't call a foul. We win by 1.
Wow.
And we go to the NIT. We play Alabama. Then I can't remember and then we play Illinois State. And then we play St. Bonaventure in the championship game. And we lost we were down 1 in the NIT championship game. We're down 1 with like 20 seconds left, George. They shoot and miss. We go down on a 3-on-1 break. I'm on the right side. The second leading scorer on our team is on the left side. I've had a great game. I got 38, so I know if they get it to him, I'm going to score. He got caught up in the moment, our freshman point guard, because our starting point guard had fouled out. He pulls up from the top of the key and misses. They get the rebound. We got to foul them. They end up beating us by 3. NIT finals.
Wow. But that was good exposure, though. Great exposure.
Oh, I mean, the New York papers were going crazy. Yeah, I mean, guys, I have guys now talk about they were at that game when they see me, or they run into me or call me or whatever. It was a great game. St. Bonaventure had a great game.
Yeah.
But
Who's on
what's
the
fascinating,
who's
I
on
don't think they had any players that went pro, though,
Okay.
on that team. But what's fascinating, George, about the game against Larry Bird, so when I went to Boston, because I want to tell this story, I don't want to forget it.
Okay.
Larry and I had the same agent, and he never said anything. And then we were in the same conference when I was playing for New Jersey. He never said anything. When I went to Boston, he said, "Otis, welcome to the team. It's great to have you, you know. Uh, looking forward to playing with you." But he said, "You know you effing foul me, don't you?" 12 years later, it's still in his mind about that game, the NIT game that we beat them by 1 point. He said, "You know
Right.
you effing foul me, don't you?"
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I said,
That,
"Yeah, Larry, I did, but they wasn't gonna call it in Houston, baby."
yeah. That sound. So the NIT game was in Houston?
NIT game was at our place, yes.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So the final 4 games were
The
uh
Final 4 games were in New York at Madison
okay.
Square Garden.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So let's jump to pro and tell us you're starting off with Kansas City. Tell me about your pro career. Yeah, some of the highlights.
Well, first of all, the main highlights are the guys I got to play with. Some of them who are no longer with us, like Sam Lacey, one of the funniest and toughest guys and best teammates you can ever have. Josie Merriweather was Bill Robinson. Those were great guys, great teammates, and they're no longer with us. But uh, Kansas City is probably my favorite place that I played with George because of Cotton Fitzsimmons. He created a family atmosphere, almost a college type atmosphere. We would go to movies together as a team. He would always have us over to his house and have parties as a team. He would let us get in the jacuzzi with him and hang out with him at his team over at his house. And he was always cooking out for us as a team. So he created a family type atmosphere when I was there.
Mhm.
And Kansas City at the time was a small market, even though the Royals and the Chiefs were there. But it was just a great, great city to be in and a franchise to play for. And then when they brought in Phil Ford, who was one of the greatest pure point guards that I've ever played with, it just took our team to another level.
Mhm.
And you had a great shooter in Scott Wedman, who won a couple of championships after he left Kansas City and went to the Celtics. Reggie King, who played at Alabama. Richard Washington, who played at UCLA. Ernie Grunfield. um, Billy McKinney. I played with some great, great guys, and the fans were great. The city was tremendous, and my most memorable moments are from Kansas City. I played in made 3 straight All-Star teams, being in Kansas City. The highest average I ever had in the pros, 25 a game, was in Kansas City. So it was just a great, great atmosphere and a great, great time. And we built something really special, so much so my um, last year in Kansas City, we went to the Western Conference Finals.
Mhm.
And the Houston Rockets beat us, and they were very fortunate because Phil Ford had surgery on his eye. He had eye socket surgery.
Wow.
And I had severely sprained my ankle after we beat Portland in the first round, and played sparingly against Phoenix, Paul Westphal and Walt Davis in that great team in the second round. And by the time we got to the third round, though, I was kind of healthy by the time we got to the Western Conference Finals. But Phil couldn't see out of one eye.
Mm-hmm.
And he wasn't confident at all. And my ankle still was bothering me a little bit. And Moses Malone was just too dominant also. But we had beaten him 4 out of 6 times during the regular season.
You did.
And to this day, Dale Harris, who was coaching the Rockets at the time, when he sees me in Houston, he'll say, Otis, you know, if you and Phil had been healthy, you all would have beaten us and gone to the finals. Because we had a heck of a team my last year in Kansas City.
Yeah, you guys are really exciting. I remember seeing you, watching you on TV. It's one of the favorite teams that I used to love to watch. It was a 3-point line in then?
No.
No?
No.
It came in what? What year?
Oh, I'm sorry, George. That'd have been the first year, George. We didn't shoot a lot of threes, but I think that was the first year.
Yeah, it came in with the merger then when the ABA
Yes.
merged in 76. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. But you guys didn't shoot a whole lot.
No, we didn't shoot a lot of threes. Cotton didn't believe in that. Scotty and I, we shot not that we didn't have the range. Well, back then, you know, George, back in the day, it was inside out. You know, we had so many great big man players. The ball go inside first.
Yeah.
You know, and then it was mid-range shots.
Yeah.
You know, or getting to the basket. But you know, we didn't shoot even when it first came out, teams were not shooting a lot of threes. No, but our chemistry was so good, man. It was like a machine, man. We beat Alvin Adams and Paul Westphal and Walter Davis and Don Boosie and Truck Robinson. We beat those guys to go to the Western Conference Finals. In fact, the 7th game was in Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so man, we had a great team in Kansas City that year, man. And unfortunately, they couldn't afford to keep us. You know, the franchise didn't have a lot of money. We were in the Western Conference Finals, George, and we didn't sell out at the games.
Right.
And they just couldn't afford to keep us. I was a free agent. Scotty was a free agent. And we both signed with Cleveland. That was the first year of the right of first refusal.
Okay.
And that's the big contract you were referring to. I went to Cottonfish Simmons, and we sat down, and he said, Otis, what is it going to take to keep you? At the time, David Thompson was the highest paid player, if I'm not mistaken. I know he was the highest paid guard, and he was making $700,000 a year. And so I told Cottonfish Simmons, you know, look, I'm coming off of 3 straight All-Star games, averaging 25 a game. I need $800,000 a year. So he tells me, well, we can't give you 800, but we can give you 600. I'm like, no, Cotton, 600 not gonna do it now. I mean, every time I play against David, I love David, but I be wearing David out. I got my career high on David. I always kill David, and he making 7. I say, I need at least 8. He said, well, we can't do it. I said, well, I'm gonna have to test free agency. And so I signed with Cleveland for $1 million a year. And of course, Kansas City didn't have the money to match it. So what they did a matching trade. They traded me to New Jersey for Mike Woodson and somebody else, and I went to New Jersey. But I wanted to go to Cleveland. I mean, we had signed Scott Redmond, James Edwards. I don't know if you remember Bobby Wilkerson.
Yeah.
Bobby Wilkerson.
Yeah.
George, all 3 of us had signed with Cleveland, man.
Okay.
And and plus they already had some decent players there.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I was excited to be going to Cleveland.
Who was there then? The big man, Cleveland.
It was
Jim Jones,
the barbecue guy. He has a
from Kentucky State.
Yes, he has a barbecue sauce now.
Play with Elmo.
Elmo. It was Elmo.
Elmo Smith.
Elmo Smith. Yeah, man.
Yeah, good friend. Yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think Bingo or one of those. They had a real good small forward there.
Bingo Smith.
It might have been Bingo Smith.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And I think Austin Carr wasn't still there, was he?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, but they had a decent team. They had some decent guys.
Okay.
And so I was excited, man. I mean, the play with Scott Wedman, my boy. Shoot, and James Edwards, and man, we had a good team, man.
And, okay. So you go to New Jersey and played there, and is that where you and Michael Ray hooked up there, or?
Yeah, well, initially Kansas City got rid of Phil Ford. Larry Brown was my coach, and he went and got Phil Ford and Sam Lacey, and
Larry was coaching New Jersey?
yeah,
Okay. I didn't know
my,
that.
my first 2 years, where he coached me 1 year.
Yeah.
In the second year, he bailed out on us and went to Kansas. Didn't tell anyone.
Yeah.
Um, New Jersey was tough, George. I played in New Jersey 7 years. Played for 5 different coaches, 5 different systems. It was terrible. They had 10 owners.
Wow.
It was a revolving door. They were trading players left and right every week, man. Man, we had some great teams, man. So many great players came through New Jersey, and they got rid of them, man.
Mm-hmm.
It was frustrating, man.
Yeah. Well, no wonder Larry left then.
No, Larry left because when Larry left, we had some great players. He had drafted Buck Williams.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Larry was very, very emotional guy and very close to players. Larry and I roomed together in my first year in the ABA.
Get out of here.
Yeah. He was my I was his rookie, if you will.
No.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, we had a great relationship. Yep. At Washington Capitals at the time. And
Wow.
Larry was an all-star guard. I don't know if you knew that.
No.
Yeah, he was an all-star.
So he could play.
Oh yeah. He helped make Rick Barry in the ABA. They played together in Oakland, is where they started off playing together, and then of course Larry went to Washington, and then on to the Virginia Squires, and I think that's when I'm not sure where he went from there, but then he started coaching after that.
He was a facilitator, a scorer, or what?
He was an all-star, made the all-star team, but it was more facilitator, point guard, had led the league in assists, could score, but not a big scorer. He probably averaged 10, 11 points a game.
What, you played with in 1 year?
1 year. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, he always took great time with the guys who new guys coming in. He was very relatable, and so we roomed together on the road and so forth. Yeah. We matter of fact, don't talk to him here lately, but we had a great relationship for years. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. I never knew that, man.
Yep. So as we kind of walk through things, where you played in the league 12 years, your last few years with New Jersey, and who else did you play with during that?
I finished with Boston.
Boston. That's right.
It was the first year that the Detroit Pistons won their first championship. They beat us in the first round. But Larry wasn't playing. That was the year his back was hurt.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So after your career, you started doing some coaching and general managership and CBA and.
Well, I never coached. When I retired, I actually was kind of burned out, George. I was my last year in the league, I was going through a divorce, or went through a divorce. And so I was more focused on spending time with my 2 young boys. I had an opportunity to go overseas. They had just started paying real big money overseas, and I had an opportunity to go overseas and play. And I told my agent that I don't want to be away from my boys. It's bad enough that I'm going to be away from them during after I get divorced. So I didn't want to go overseas and not be able to see my boys when I wanted to see them. So I turned down a contract to go overseas. And then um, after that, the general manager for the Chicago Bulls wanted me to come in to training camp. He tells me, Jerry Krause, he tells me, Otis, I guarantee you're going to make the team. He said, sometimes you can play with Michael, and sometimes, you'll be playing behind Michael, but we want you to come in. I said, Jerry, I need a guarantee. I need some guaranteed money. He said, well, I can't guarantee anything now. I'm telling you, you're going to make the team. And I said, no, Gary, I can't do it, man. 12-year vet, I needed some guaranteed money. And he wouldn't give me any he wouldn't guarantee me any money, George. And they
Mhm.
ended up signing Craig Hodges,
Okay.
the three-point shooter.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And he ended up winning the championship. But I told him, no, I needed some guaranteed money, man. Jerry Krause personally called me and wanted me to come to training camp and didn't want to give me a dime of guaranteed money. And I wouldn't do it. There's no way. Nope.
Wow. Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
And that was the year the year they won the first championship?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think I let my ego get in the way, George. Like, man, you want me to come up there and kill me all that running and you ain't gonna guarantee nothing?
Yeah. That's interesting. I did not know that.
That's
Yeah.
a true story, man. He personally called me. I was at home and he called me, man. Jerry Krause. Yep.
Mhm. So your second career, you decided to do what? Where are you? What are you doing today?
Well, I decided that I was gonna take some years off and do nothing. And I was living in Houston and this guy asked me to help him with an NBA type All-Star game with former players at the Summit in Houston. And we started putting it together. We got the players and getting sponsorships and stuff. And I was like, man, I kind of like this. This is fun. And even though the game didn't happen, I was able to meet with the GM of the Houston Rockets, of course, be in touch with a lot of the former players and talk to executives and sponsors and CEOs. And I said, man, I need to start me a sports marketing company. And so that's what I did in Houston. After a year or so, I started doing that, which eventually led me to become the director of events and promotions at the Starbuck company for Roger Starbuck
Mhm.
for 8 years. And then after that, I had an opportunity to become the president and general manager of an NBA Development League team in Little Rock. And left the Starbuck company and went to Little Rock and did that for a couple of years. Actually did that for 3 or 4 years, being the president and general manager of minor league basketball teams.
Mhm.
And I still, to this day, I still do events, and speaking engagement for guys and golf tournaments and stuff like that. And but my main focus right now is I'm an ambassador for the Brooklyn Nets. I don't know if a lot of people knew that, but I do a lot of stuff for them and with them, and
Mhm.
they really support a lot of my endeavors that I do. Have a great relationship with the owners of the team, in communication with them all the time. And but I attend a Bible school called the Institute of Divine Metaphysical Research. And that is the reason my wife and I moved to Los Angeles because it's headquartered in LA.
Okay.
They are non-denominational um, religious organization, and been doing that actually since been involved with the school since 1989, and that's my main focus. 3 days a week, we have a Bible school, that we attend. But that's what I'm doing.
You do that virtually?
No,
No?
no,
Okay.
we're attending class in LA. In
Okay.
fact, we have branch schools all over the country. We have one in Orlando, actually in Winter Park, in Orlando. In fact, I was in Fort Lauderdale. I'm actually in West Palm Beach right now,
Okay.
and I went to our Bible school that we have in our branch that we have in Fort Lauderdale last night.
Well, Otis, I think we've been on now. I appreciate you finally honoring us by being being a part of the program. I got to make sure I let artists know.
Well, I have to mention this before we go.
Okay.
In all sincerity, George, and I tell people this, I'm not telling you anything new. You have been a role model and mentor to me and for me since I met you. You are such a class act, your family, your son, your wife. You have done so much, not just for the city of Winter Haven, but throughout Polk County. And you are so well known and so generous. People don't know how generous you really are. But whether you have provided anything for me, the mentorship, the friendship, the support that you have always provided me since the day I met you is unmeasurable. And I want you to know that. I look up to you as a man, as a big brother. I love you. I'm always bragging on you, proud of you. And you just a credit to not only your family, but our race. And I just love you, man. And I'm just honored to be on with you. I really mean that.
Well, Otis, I greatly appreciate that, man. I don't know how much I owe you, but that that's
you
true.
you owe me your continued friendship, brother.
You got it, my friend. You got it. You got it. You and your family both, man. So tell my girl hello for me and
Well,
thank.
you will be seeing her hopefully next week. Our campus in Winter Haven next week, and she's flying in on Wednesday,
Okay.
next
All right.
Wednesday. So I'm sure she'll be looking for you. She crazy about you too, you know. So
Yeah. Well, Otis, thank you. We appreciate it. And certainly we'll be visiting when you get up here. Okay.
all right, brother. Take care. Tell the wife hello.
We'll do.
This has been Catch as Catch Can. Your success story is waiting to be written. What will you catch today? Go to tinsleyspeaks.com for exclusive content, resources, and opportunities. Catch as Catch Can with George Tinsley Sr. is a production of Advantage Media.